Hello, and welcome to Replay Value. We have spent 22 episodes with Hotaro, following his journey as someone who was outspoken against the idea of a rose-colored life for himself in a group of people and friends who seemed to be enjoying their rose-colored high school experience, and who initially got dragged into their mysteries much to his chagrin. Hyoka's primary storyline is about Hotaro growing as a person, how he changes and how he in turn changes his friends as they experience the highs and lows of high school, but always with the end goal of him realizing a rose-colored life. Here in the final episode, we reach the definitive conclusion of that journey, a moment after which there can be no question about the direction of Hotaro's life. And I frankly can't imagine a more perfect ending. And so now, for the final time, we'll be taking a look at episode 22, The Doll That Took a Detour. The episode opens with Hotaro bored at home before Chitanda calls asking if Hotaro would be able to hold an umbrella for the Doll Festival, which Hotaro, showing how he's changed over the series, agrees to. There's a great laugh as Chitanda reacts to Hotaro's repeated mention of Doll, her being a little bit embarrassed about her role in the procession. After learning that Chitanda will be playing the Empress, we cut to Hotaro making his way to Shrine via bike, wearing a heavy jacket. As Hotaro makes his way, he passes by a cherry blossom blooming out of season, capturing his attention. When he arrives at the shrine, he's ignored at first, then set aside, as he notes how out of place he is. He's the youngest person by far. There's really only one other young person in the room filled with middle-aged and older men. As Hotaro chats with one of the older gentlemen, he states that they've been making a lot of trouble for outsiders this year, since they don't have enough hands on deck, a clear cultural divide between the people who live in the urban area of the city and the more rural locations surrounding the shrine. After Hotaro says all of the right things, seemingly having learned from his embarrassing interaction during the New Year's visit, the elder states, suggesting that he's made a good inroad towards no longer being a total outsider. The next sequence, where the no longer delayed construction on the bridge will interfere with their path, utilizes a near constant cutting to the clock to show how pressing the matter is. Hotaro not realizing how big of a deal the bridge being out is, more proof of his outsider status, is made really clear by the reaction shots and the stares Hotaro gets afterwards. As the group tries to make a new plan, it's very apparent that we and Hotaro are not entirely in the loop, since the seemingly obvious solution, to take a bridge a bit further down the river, is not immediately jumped on.
In fact, the pan down suggests that this wasn't an option that anyone else was considering.
But we don't get to stick on that for long, since Hotaro is called to Chitanda's changing room. What's really impressive about this scene is how the privacy screen fulfills 3 roles. The first is the stated one. Chitanda is changing clothes. The second is that it reinforces this social distinction between them, as though Chitanda is truly an empress and Hotaro is a commoner, unworthy to look upon her. And thirdly, it's to reinforce Chitanda's behavior, as Hotaro questions whether it's actually Chitanda he's talking to. She's speaking flatly, is unengaged in asking questions, and seems even more formal and proper than usual. It's a difference not only from previous episodes, but even earlier on the phone in this one. Chitanda tells Hotaro to tell the group that she'll reach out to the other side's priest, which makes everyone feel relieved and jump to work after being paralyzed. As the dolls begin to appear, Hotaro shivering in the cold weather, the Emperor appears, and it's a familiar face in Irisu. But the excited reactions and rose-colored tint are reserved for Chitanda, the frame blending almost hypnotic and intoxicating. We haven't seen Chitanda in this entire episode, only heard her voice, the 4th use of the privacy screen, and it's all set up to maximize the impact of this moment. The music gives the procession an almost mystical, dreamlike feel. The echoing of Hotaro's steps all add to this departure from the norm, and it reinforces Hotaro's thought that but it doesn't reach its absolute height until the symbol of rose-colored life, the Sakura tree, is unified with this moment. On its own, the tree caught Hotaro's eye, but in combination, Hotaro is almost having an out-of-body experience. This genuine expression of excited curiosity, as opposed to the begrudging kind that was the lead into the helicopter mystery, is a huge departure for Hotaro. Hotaro's belief that his motto is being shattered is seemingly nonsensical because he'd already broken it by agreeing to help in the first place. But if we interpret his statement as instead that he's about to leave it behind forever, we can see how Chitanda has gone from dragging him to now Hotaro wanting to move himself. He's not being forced to change. The circumstances have shifted such that he desires it for himself. In episode 1, we established that romance was a part of high school life that Hotaro had no interest in. But it's clear that in this moment, the reason why the policy is shattered is because for the first time, he's interested in it. That he's curious about what Chitanda would look like underneath the sakura tree. A desire to move, to see the girl who he has finally realized his feelings for. But it's not for long. Satoshi breaks him out of his trance, and we jump to the middle school 3 hanging out while Chitanda finishes up her duties. In this brief moment, we finish up the Satoshi Mayaka storyline, confirming that they're back to normal as friends, and that, since Mayaka heard about how angry Hotaro had gotten, Satoshi had taken his step forward to be honest with Mayaka, a fact that is not lost on Hotaro. It also, in a really heartwarming moment, shows that Hotaro and Mayaka, despite outward appearances, are actually very good friends. We also get a chance to say goodbye to Irisu, who suggests that the bridge being unavailable has a few questions surrounding it. Hotaro instinctually goes to his hair but stops himself. Movie mystery arc rearing its ugly head, especially as Hotaro implies that Irisu is teasing him by asking him to solve it. Irisu states that she had a job to do then, but that she has no such responsibility now. She wouldn't lie to him. Hotaro seems to accept this, and I think that this suggests that Irisu does honestly believe that Hotaro is talented. And she's also being honest when she says that she'd hope that he'd solve it for them, but critically, she won't manipulate him to do so. It's the continued understanding of Irisu that she takes her responsibilities so seriously that she'll become a different person to achieve them. A multitude of personas that leaves you wondering about who she really is. We jump to everyone eating, Hotaro alone in the bottom left corner, further compounding the gap we've been talking about as he exits to get some fresh air. And almost like clockwork, Chitanda appears. Back to her normal self, all excited and energetic. It's another example we've seen of how Chitanda is multifaceted when it comes to the separate social areas she interacts in. Or rather, how serious she is about duties done in her family's name. But now that she's free from that, we can see the Chitanda we're familiar with. And continuing to build from Hotaro's "I'm curious" statements where he was becoming more like Chitanda, we can see that actualized as they conclude the same person was behind the bridge incident, the brown-haired kid who helped Hotaro put his outfit on. They also both try their best stifling their laughs as they write on their hands. Hotaro puts together the clues for why he thinks Konari's son is responsible, and Chitanda puts together the all-important why he did it, wanting to take photos of the doll procession under the sakura blossoms. We conclude the final mystery. With all that out of the way, Hotaro starts walking home as Chitanda joins him, as she explains why she needed to reach out to the other side to bring us up to speed on the societal structure which has previously been unclear to both us and Hotaro. It ends with Hotaro stating that she belongs to a powerful old family, and Chitanda stating her opinion on that. That her role in solving a dispute between two halves of a small city is neither insignificant nor significant. It simply is. We have these two panning shots to show us the world around Hotaro and Chitanda as they walk, showing that the two sides of this historical conflict aren't so different. Chitanda states that this is where she'll return to live, no matter how far she goes. She's not unsatisfied with that, it's simply her responsibility as a Chitanda. Her whole life revolves around the reality that she'll come back here and do her best to help with the farm, going so far as to base her schooling around sciences to maximize crop yield. Hotaro agrees that that's a good call for her, since the festival arc clearly showed that her ability to negotiate wasn't her strongest trait. She's not like Irisu, and to achieve her responsibilities, she can't become her. Chitanda has to find her own way that is consistent with who she is. This is her place. It's not particularly special. The people here are old and tired. why they needed outsiders to help with their event. It's not particularly beautiful despite the amazing shots we see before us. It's not full of potential, but it's her place. And she wanted Hotaro to see it, to share this part of her with him, to close the gap a little bit more, so that he can understand her a little bit better. And Hotaro responds to that feeling by saying that he can take care of the business side. More evidence of Hotaro wanting to be helpful to Chitanda, but this time, a confession of romantic interest. The winds blow as sakura petals enter the air, and Chitanda is speechless. At the beginning of episode 5, as Hotaro walked these same roads, he was asked if he desired a rose-colored life, and he answered, maybe. Now, in this moment, we have our answer, even as we learn that that statement to Chitanda was just a visualization, and we snap back to reality. Hotaro, now unable to find the words, still indecisive despite what he just imagined, thinks back to Satoshi on the bridge. Satoshi's feelings for Mayaka were genuine, but he was afraid of how it could change him, afraid of moving forward. Hotaro states,
寒くなってきたな.
Not only an allusion to Satoshi's mindset on the snowy bridge being frozen in place, but also to all of the earlier moments in this episode where he was cold. But just like when he was standing waiting for the procession to start, Chitanda is the one who causes him to thaw, as she says the final line in Hyoka.
いいえ、もう春です。
There's no more being gray, as the embodiment of a rose-colored life flies off the branches, covering Hotaro and Chitanda in the pink petals that he ignored in the opening moments of the first episode. Hotaro's visualization comes to life in this moment, proof that what he imagined will become true eventually. Chitanda, surrounded by the sakura he so badly wanted to see her in front of, smiles at him. And Hotaro, for a moment, seems scared by the intensity of his feelings and what it means for him, but it turns to a smile. Perhaps thinking back to his conversation with Mayaka earlier, or even earlier than that with Satoshi in the second mystery, and realizing that it doesn't have to be right now, until he's truly ready to accept everything that comes with the next step, as these two characters look into the beautiful sky together. And as the heart-shaped petals fall towards the ground, we can see a few small plants beginning to grow. It's a sign that there will be more mysteries and questions, frustrations and growing pains, happy memories and painful ones too, and perhaps romance as well. The destination is clear. It's spring now. Those plants are Hotaro. The seeds of a rose-colored life have just begun to sprout, and eventually, with the help of the farmer's daughter, they will bloom. And on that promise, our journey through Hyoka comes to an end.